Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is Money Mondays with your hosts, Ben Suttles and Ferris Musa from Disrupt
Welcome
Equity.
back, Money Mondays.
What is going on, everybody? Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. What'd you do this weekend, man?
I did nothing. Worked on unpacking my new house. So
Hey, well, that's not
trying to get
bad.
situated there, enjoy the weather a little bit by doing nothing interesting, and more importantly, looked forward to Monday so I could be here on Money Mondays.
Yes, that was the best part. Sunday evening, looking forward to
That's the best highlight of the weekend is, counting down the hours to Money Mondays.
Heck yeah. No, just relax, folks. You got to take a little bit of time for yourself, right? Work-life balance. It's important in this new crazy world that we're in. But what are we talking about today, my friend?
Talk about how to drive ROI by rehabbing your property.
Ooh, something we know a little bit about. So we're doing about, I think maybe 12 million in CapEx right now. Across our whole entire portfolio. So that is rehab dollars that we're putting into our properties, folks. So, and that's on top of probably the 20 million that we've done in the past. So we know a little bit about this. We do have our own kind of construction management team as well, internally through Disrupt Management. Really excited about that. We've been building that team out too. But we got a couple general contractors that help us out. But bottom line, you need to know what's actually drive some ROI, right?
And
you don't want to
actually
just do
track
stupid
it
stuff.
too. Don't just
Track.
do.
Yeah, you don't want to just do, that looked like a cool thing, so let's do that, right? I need to replace every single roof because somebody told me that one of the roofs was bad, right? You have to understand that some of this stuff's going to have a better ROI than others. And you need to be able to track that, and you need to be able to make sure that all this works within your budget, because ultimately this whole thing revolves around you making money, right? And so don't just go crazy, and certainly don't let your general contractor dictate what your budget's going to be, because it's going to get really expensive. But let's just dive right into this thing, man. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit. You're gonna get to answer some of this stuff this week, man. Ways
Make me do the work
to maximize the ROI on your multifamily property renovations. I've got an answer to this one.
There's a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately it's anything that generates money. That's my answer, right? Anything that generates money, and then back into what that ROI is. For example, if I can install covered parking for $100 and get $100 more rent a month, it's a pretty good return. That's probably better to do than spend $4,000 on an interior upgrade to get whatever.
So let's talk. So we'll take a step back, folks, right? Return on investment. That's what ROI means, right? So whenever you're putting money into your property, you generally, now there's some stuff that you still have to do, deferred maintenance or what have you, but you want to make money on the money that you're putting into the property. Right. So what Ferris, that example that he gives, an extreme example.
I love my extreme examples.
But carports aren't going to cost you $100 to put in.
Well, no, you're selling shaded things. I just need just a little bit of some sheets and cover the thing and call it a day. It's covered parking.
So generally, at least when it comes to unit upgrades, you're wanting your ROI to be 25 to 30%, right? So, now again, you could judge.
The answer is you want it to be as high as you can.
Yes, that's
right
what I was going to say.
Market is
right?
more, a good return is about a 25 to 30% is what you can expect.
Yes, on unit upgrades, right? Now, some of this stuff might have a higher one, might have a lower one. And that example, extreme example, that was an incredible ROI. That was, way over 100%. Right?
That's the kind of deals I do, Ben.
No, I like
the kind of investments I make.
I like it. We got to make some money on this thing, man. So, bottom line, you want to determine based on that ROI percentage, and there's a lot of ways to calculate this, and you can find all that stuff online, right? You want to determine what stuff's going to be driving the biggest impact in that return on investment number, right? Now typically stuff that generates additional income, right? Your unit upgrades, you're adding to specific amenities, carports, right? People will pay for carports, right? Say you didn't have washer and dryers, but you can install them for a certain amount of money. And let's just say you can get an additional $100 a month in rent for those. Again, people will pay for that. So is it worth it to include that in your, your budget, right? But I would say mainly your highest ROI things at your property are going to be revolved around your unit upgrades and what you do there.
And then a handful of exterior things like covered parking, ports. Building back things like package locker. There's some other things that maybe you can build back. Concierge, trash, a handful of others. But like Ben said, the bulk of the ROI, the things that tenants will pay for is those interior upgrades. They can see that backsplash, they can see that granite, they can see that new paint job, right? All of that is something that
tangible thing that they're going to be living. They can go show it off. They can have their friends over and say, "Hey, look at my beautiful new apartment." You know, I mean, people pay for that, right? So if it's in front of them, they'll say, "Okay, hey, I will pay an additional premium, you know, to live in this apartment that has been upgraded," right? And you're going to say, "Well, what is that?" Right? Again, it's 25 to 30% minimum is what you're looking for, but it could be myriad of different dollar amounts, right? Typically, what we're seeing right now, and this is in the C, B, and A minus space, the unit upgrades are going to cost you anywhere from 10 to 20 grand, right? And it used to be 5 to 7. So inflation has definitely caught up with the industry. So you got to take that into consideration, that all of your costs, all your appliances, all your granite, all your flooring has gone up, right? So then you have to determine, does that $100, $200, $300 rent premium, does that still make sense to do, right? If not, then you might want to back off of the scope of work that you're doing in order to achieve that return on investment, right? You know, because again, folks, you don't want to over rehab your property and not get that ROI either, right? So you have to kind of think through it, right? And don't be so robotic about it. Even if you say, "Hey, it was supposed to be 10, so I'm going to spend 10, you know, don't always think of that way, right? And also understand that you're probably 30, 40, 50% more expensive these days than you might have been a year or two ago as well, right? So some common strategies in the multifamily industry to add the most value. Again, unit upgrades, amenities, always going to drive the most value at your property, right? Because that directly is impacting the revenue at the property, people. So again, revenue flows down to NOI, NOI gets a cap rate applied to it, that's going to increase the value, right? Now, some things that I want to also talk about with rehab is there's other things that you have to do, right? And those are not going to have as good of a return on investment, right? Think roofs, think parking lot, think HVAC. You know, your tenants are going to expect those things just to be good, in good shape, and working, right? They're not going to pay you an extra $50 because the parking lot doesn't have a bunch of holes in it. Sorry, just doesn't work like that. You know, they're not going to pay you an extra $100 because the roof's good, right? They're just going to expect that the roof is good and isn't going to leak on all their stuff, right? So, but you're going to say, well, then why the heck should I do that? Well, at the end of the day, you might have some of these things that need to be replaced.
Yeah, and I'd say, you know,
right?
part of it too is talk to your tenants. See what things need to be replaced, what things they want for, right? Talk to your staff, understand what are tenants coming in and asking for. All that stuff is part of the business plan. Properties are not all the same. Yes, we have a general idea of what we do on interior upgrades. It's not to say that we've questioned some properties where do people want a study nook or do they want, you know, something that might be more local specific, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're in a, you know, a trendy millennial area and they don't care if it's a studio and they really just want openness and, you know, they don't care to have a breakfast nook. They're okay to just upgrade the kitchen and have kind of a, you know, a space to be used. Yeah. And so again, talk to your staff. Don't just kind of roll the dice. Go see what other people are doing, right? But it's always about understanding what people are paying for it, and then does it make sense for you to do those things, right? Some things are cheaper than others.
And I'd also say, okay, you're doing your property tour, folks, right? You found a property, it underwrites good, it's in the area that you want, it's in your buy box, you want to go out there, right? You know, the number one question that everybody asks, and you'll sometimes get a seasoned manager that chuckles at this question is, if I gave you $1 million day one to update the property, what would you do? They will tell you the top 3 things that need to happen at that property. Sometimes they've been,
and it's
so
usually,
there's been a couple of them that are a little
it's usually
stupid,
not
but
the first 3 that you want. It's you want to know what's after that, right? The first 3 are usually fairly obvious, right? Like you kind of have a good idea,
yes.
But it's really 4, 5, 6, 7 that are more intriguing because
and you got to push. But the manager, and typically the broker's not going to try to step in the middle of that because they've heard that question enough. But the manager has been there. They've been managing the property. They know what the tenants are looking for. They know what the prospective tenants have been asking for. And they're going to say, okay, hey, we're going to give me $1 million. I'm going to make my life easier. So I'm going to do these 5 things, you know, and then you have to balance that, right? With, okay, hey, of course she's going to want this, this, and this. Am I going to do that? Does it have a good return on investment? Is it in accordance with my business plan or not? You got to weigh all of those things, but it's another good data point and another, I guess, person's perspective that's really in the know. The manager, who better to know the property than the manager? Right? You know, so she or he will give you some great ideas on how to go about doing this, right? And give you some tips on like, hey, we've been having a lot of these problems, so I think, maybe you want to go, and sometimes they'll give you a little bit of insight. But bottom line, what are some of the best upgrades that you can do to get the biggest rent pops? It's definitely, again, you're going back to your unit upgrades. And what we're seeing, right, again, some stuff that's sexy these days. We talked about some nooks and some areas where you're trying to carve out space for people to work from home. That was kind of the wave of the future with COVID, and I still think that's going to be there because people are still working somewhat remotely or virtually, or at least there's a hybrid model. Ultimately, you can't go wrong with hard countertops, right? That's quartz or granite. Backsplashes. People love backsplashes. Believe it or not, there's still a lot of workforce housing stuff that doesn't have a backsplash on there. You get some white subway tiles back there, it really does it. It pretties up the place, right? Stainless steel or black appliances. Again, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of ones that still have white out there, right? You could just do little stuff like instead of having cabinets without any knobs, you put the straight bar on there. Mm-hmm. Like some of these things don't cost a lot of money, right? But one of the things that we're doing on all of our properties is tech packages. Right? You're gonna say, well, what the heck's a tech package, right? Well, even on our workforce housing stuff, we're doing USB plugs for people's phones. Let's just be honest. That's just the wave of the future, right? We're doing smart thermostats, right? So think Nest or something equivalent. Doesn't have to be a Nest. Nests are probably on the higher end. And then we're trying to tie in kind of access control to the property, right? Access control can be via an app. We've done both things, or a fob, right? And the app or the fob controls not only access to the unit, but it also controls access to all the amenities as well, and you can control who has access, and if they're evicted, you can turn them off. There's a lot of benefits as an owner and as a property management company to having that, and that whole thing gets wrapped into kind of a tech package amenity fee, right? And I'd also say package lockers, right? You spend, I think they're probably calling, just depends on the size, right? 15, 20, 25 grand, but you can charge back $5 to $10, a month just for a package fee. Right, and so you're offsetting some of that, and it's a complete convenience for your tenants, and then it takes the burden of being the postal guy off of all your staff too. So those are what you're going to get the biggest jumps, right now in this market. That's what we're seeing, right? So what are some of the best projects you've completed, and have you seen be completed that have generated the most value?
Before you answer that, Mondays are just live every Monday, 3:30 Central. If you have comments, questions, thoughts, please ask them. We will answer them live. We did get a few comments, so let's see. So Saeed asks, from Houston, thank you for all the important info and education. He said, I would definitely go with plumbing jobs such as boiler and HVAC to start with. I tend to disagree.
I would probably say no too, man. Unless you have problematic issues that you have identified during your due diligence, then in that case, I'd bite the bullet and pretty quickly. I'll give you an example. There's a deal in San Antonio that we had identified during due diligence that one of the boilers on the property was on its last leg. And literally, I am not joking, folks, the first day that we buy it, that boiler went out. Well, luckily, we had carved out $40K to buy a new boiler, and we bought it within the first 24 hours. So in that case, yes, it made sense because we knew that it was going to be an issue down the road. So you want to carve out some of your CapEx budget to identify and replace or repair those things. But that's not going to get you your best return on investment, right? Again, today's show is about what can you do to improve the property that's going to also get you the biggest juice, right? And juice is obviously going to be tied to your unit upgrades and your amenities. All that other stuff is deferred maintenance and just general upkeep of the property, right? You're trying to preserve the value of the property. And I'm not saying, and don't take this the wrong way, I'm not saying that plumbing isn't important. It absolutely is important. But when it comes to return on investment, it's really, really low, right? Because then you're trying to quantify, well, if it went down, how much is going to cost me down the road, right?
Yeah, it's hard to measure that.
It's hard to measure,
and tenants don't see that, and tenants don't pay for that.
They don't care, right? They just expect that the plumbing works. And so
you don't ever test the quality of your plumbing, Ben?
No.
You don't ever test the flush power of a toilet?
No, I don't. I know. But it's again, we're not trying to make light of this of your question, and we appreciate you commenting. It's more so just kind of take that into consideration, man. That yes, you might have to do that, but there's probably better spins of your CapEx dollars, I guess. So so let's go back to another question that kind of came in. So what are some of the best projects that you've ever completed? I think, we've done a lot of CapEx, I'd say there's a couple that we're really fairly proud of. I'd say Huntington Park was our first deal. Woods of Decatur was another deal that we did too. Both had down units that had a ton of moving pieces. And they're big repositions. and there are $1 million of CapEx, and there's just a lot of moving pieces. But it's incredible to kind of see these lease up deals where you bring these down units back online and your income is going like this, folks. And it's just the most beautiful thing to see each month as your income continues to creep up more and more and more and more each month, and you see the value going. So those are probably some of the 2 projects that we're most proud of.
So, other stuff too, right? Like we, replacing the siding on a property with wood paneling actually shows really well.
Oh, that was actually, that was great.
I was always a favorite. I love seeing that before and after. I think we're going to probably highlight that here. Other big projects that we
I'd say Heights on Katy, right? Painting that
modernizing, puke yellow into something.
Let's see if we can find it here. Here we go. And Avery, if you could change it to this.
Yeah.
If you could change it to this
We'll go back to the preview. Oh, okay, you want to talk about Heights on Katy?
Yeah, so we'll talk about this one real quick, and then we'll go back. So these are some before and after, folks, right? And this was on our newsletter, so bear with us if you're on our email list here. But as you can see on the left, look at that yellow. That puke yellow, it's a beautiful property. It kind of reminded me of,
I don't know what Ben was thinking when he chose that yellow. So I went in and did the right side, and we ended up ultimately repainting.
It was like the Ritz in Miami, right? And so you
went the wrong shade of the Ritz.
Yeah, I know. But, at the end of the day, we said, okay, hey, beautiful property, great location, but we got to modernize this. And so it was we're still wrapping it up. It's a tremendous paint job. There's so much space on this property and just so many corridors and everything has been completely painted. But 8 months later, we're almost done, but that's what it looks like on the after side, right? This is the same property, kind of the office space. We used an interior designer to kind of help us just kind of rethink this whole space, right? So all these next 3 pictures here were all kind of designed by an interior designer. We use Landry Designs out of DFW. They're great. They'll come in, they'll help design colors and fixtures and ultimately furniture, which they're a furniture company, right? And so they helped us kind of just think how modernize this whole entire space, really. And so it really turned out really, really well. And this is Heights on Katy. This is one of our deals here in Houston. But going back to this is another deal here in Houston that really is Class C workforce housing deal.
We didn't replace siding on this one. This one is really wood paneling and paint.
But look what we did, right? Look what a fresh coat of paint can do. And again, we used an interior designer to help us pick the paint colors. But, this is the same.
I promise you guys, Ben didn't pick the paint colors.
No, I did not pick that. I'll admit that.
Let's pull up the screen, the one that Ben picked, So
I didn't pick that yellow either. I was the first one to try to get rid of it. But bottom line, look how much better that looks, folks. And that's just that's a paint on that horizontal wood cedar. And then we just painted the railing and the doors and the siding, and it completely changes the look and feel of the property. And so do not underestimate a good paint job, a good new signage, and then some landscaping for your property. If you do nothing other than those 3 things and then do some interior upgrades, you're probably going to be good most of the time. Right? Because you're trying to draw in new prospective tenants. If they see a new paint job, they see new signage, they see fresh landscaping, they're going to know, hey, new owners, this thing's actually looking pretty good. I might step in and see what they're renting these for, right? So it's important. Remember what you're trying to do. You're trying to drive traffic to your property to rent units. So if your property looks like garbage, nobody's ever going to come in, right? So we wanted just to kind of, show some people some perspective. But again, we've got $12 million in projects happening right now, folks. So we know a little bit about this. So drop your questions, drop your comments, in there if you would. We want this to be interactive, and ultimately let us know what you want to hear from us, right? What shows are going to be most valuable for you, right? We're doing this show for you guys, not necessarily for our benefit.
Absolutely.
Right?
If you have questions, thoughts, please ask them. We will answer them here live on Mondays. Otherwise, we're going to keep going. So.
All right. No questions. Everybody knows everything about rehab. All right. Well, hey, that
Last
time of the
call,
show.
Multifamily Investor Network Conference. We are a stone's throw away from selling out. So if you're interested, come hang out with me and 600 of our close friends here in Houston. So coming up February 11th, www.mfinvestornetwork.com. Use the coupon code LASTCALL. This thing is coming and going, and it's going to be an awesome event. We're super excited. It's going to be our biggest one to date.
Biggest one to date. Obviously here in Houston is our hometown. We may or may not do. Are we doing a property tour?
We are doing a
We're
property,
doing a property tour as well.
One of our properties, Hollister Place.
Yeah, so that should be fun. You know, if you're VIP, obviously we got the Friday night networking. We'll do some stuff Saturday night as well. So again, folks, you're not going to learn everything that you need to learn in a one-day event, but you might meet your next partner, your next investor. You might find your next deal, right? So check it out, mfinvestornetwork.com. Put in last call, get you $125 off. We are about to be sold out. So that is there we go, talking about the property tour. I didn't even know that was on there. All right, so February 12th, which is the day after, at 10 a.m. We're gonna make me not allowed to, you know, I gotta get to bed early. 10 a.m., huh? You know, so we're gonna check that out. This is one of the properties that we just bought last year. You know, we'll kind of talk through what we're gonna do, what the plan is. We're just now bidding out the rehab. We have not started anything, and we love people just to come out and learn from us, ask questions. Right, you know, so this is ultimately a part of Eventbrite, or you know, so you can reserve your spot there. Check it out, property tour that is affiliated with MFIM. But we've got our meetup. Man, it's already that time of the month. It's crazy.
It is.
Multifamily real estate investing open Q&A with your host, Mr. Ben
Your
Suttles.
less charming host.
I know, you know, but it should be fun. You guys come out with all your tough questions. You know, we'll talk about anything real estate, business, IT, tech, partnerships, raising money, whatever you guys want to talk about, we can talk about. But that's going to be February 2nd, which is next Thursday at 7 p.m. at Wakefield Crowbar right here in Houston. Check it out, www.disruptequity.com/HTX Meetup. It's a free event. We're not selling anything. This is straight open Q&A, networking. It's at a bar. They got good food. Come out and just hang out, folks. Again, this is about relationships as much as it is about data and numbers. So you got to go out there and cultivate those. But excited to talk about what next week? What are we
talking about next week? Next week we are talking about how to raise money on your deals. So
let's talk about
topic everybody wants to talk about, right? How do you raise money? What does it look like? Who should you talk to? Who should you not talk to? And how do you cultivate and build that relationship?
Yeah, so we talk about all kinds of different things when it comes to syndication here, folks. But one of the most important things is, unless you have the money, you can't buy these things. So we will talk about how we raised, I don't know, how much did we raise? Like 120 million bucks? I don't know, a lot.
But if I just put it all on credit, I can buy things that I don't have money for. Ben's statement is not 100% accurate.
It's not that thing, but we will talk about, hey, how do you raise your next $1 million, right? You know, I mean, you've got a deal, you want to raise $1 million, what's that plan? We'll talk about that next week. Looking forward to it. We will see you then.
See you guys next time.